Hello everyone, welcome back to this nonsense. I am the Horb Gorb. I'm Hedgehog, for any of you new around here. This is another video where I just talk about a recent release in a more loose format than my usual edited stuff goes. And this one is pretty relevant to this channel, I'd say, considering it is a new release in the mystery visual novel subgenre. About a week and a half ago now, 2Q Games released Mystery Detective Archives Raincode, which is kind of like seemingly a spiritual successor to their very popular series Danganronpa. And I'm a big fan of Danganronpa. I have been for many years. Not associated with the fan base. Someday I intend to make a video on Danganronpa, specifically about the nuance of its storytelling and how the fan base just sucks. But that's not this video. This video is about their new release Raincode. So essentially, I'm just playing some footage from a live stream I did on my other channel. If you want to watch me live stream, I guess you can follow the link in the description to my other channel where I live stream sometimes and I upload stories and whatever. But the footage you're seeing is just from that, so it's not going to match what I'm saying. Don't worry about it too much. This is mostly just to listen to in a podcast format. Unless you really just need some visual stimulation, then you can just watch what I'm doing, I guess. Just a couple of notes before we begin. Number one is that I'm currently, as of the time of recording this, I'm currently most of the way through Chapter 2 of the game. I know I'm taking a little while. A lot of people have finished it already. I like to take my time with things like this. So I'm most of the way through Chapter 2. So take what I say with a grain of salt, because some of it will inevitably, my opinions will inevitably change as I continue through the game. And also so obviously there'll be some minor spoilers for, the game through Chapter 2. Finally, obviously there's going to be comparisons made to Danganronpa, because it's mostly the same team who made Danganronpa that made this game. I don't want to dwell on it too much, because I believe that Raincode should be able to stand on its own as a product in order to be considered a good product. But inevitably, there's going to be comparisons, because it's mostly the same team, and they're not really doing anything to unwarrant those comparisons because of a lot of gameplay reasons, a lot of just aesthetic choices, etc., etc. So bear with me. If you don't know what Danganronpa is, you should really just go play it. It's available on most any platform ever. Just fucking go play it, man. Especially if you like the shit I do on this channel and you somehow haven't played Danganronpa yet. So go do that. Anyway, I'm going to divide this video into 4 loose sections: aesthetics, visual, audio presentation, etc., gameplay, voice acting, and writing. You might be wondering why I split off voice acting. If you're new, it's because I'm kind of a voice actor, so I have a lot to say about voice acting in general. So, first of all, starting off with the aesthetic presentation, the visuals, the audio, the art direction, the character design, etc., all that stuff in one big umbrella. I mean, it's fucking 2Q Games. So obviously the character designs are done by Rui Komatsuzaki, and they're fucking great, because it's fucking they're great artists. What can I say? But basically, I came into this thinking, okay, it's gonna be a Spike Chunsoft 3D game, which means that graphic fidelity wise, it's not going to be the best, but because it's 2Q Games, the aesthetics are going to be on point and cool looking. Suffice it to say, I was very pleasantly surprised. So Spike Chunsoft has some history doing 3D games. Specifically in the last couple of years, they've really been upping their quality as far as that goes. The newest game I've played by them is AI The Somnium Files. I haven't played the sequel to it yet, just the first one, which, admittingly is a couple years old now. I was pleasantly surprised by how fucking good Raincode looks. Fuck. It's oh god, the cutscenes, they clearly use mocap. It looks fantastic. The character models are really good and really translate the designs from Komatsuzaki really, really well. And overall, it's just a really incredible looking game. As far as just pure graphical fidelity goes, especially considering that it's on the goddamn Switch. It's on the fucking Nintendo Switch, and they've got goddamn rain puddles that everywhere. There's fucking rain puddles fucking everywhere, and there's rain fucking everywhere. Fucking even Breath of the Wild blows up when there's rain. I don't know how they managed to do it, because the frame rate's really good. It's not the best, but it's certainly better than the recent fucking Pokemon games. As far as graphical fidelity goes, as far as performance goes, it shows up all of the recent Pokemon games, like by a long shot, which, you know, I guess is not like a hard bar to fill, but that's like a second person IP. Like, you know, they should know how to work the software and the hardware better than a third party studio. But fucking God, it's really, really good. It's really, really good looking. And I think it's an aesthetic design. It's a graphic design that will really, you know, age well, I think. As far as the actual like aesthetics go, I really, really dig the kind of neo-noir cyberpunk kind of thing they've got going on. 2Q has always been really great at coming up with really like pleasing and cool designs, but they were pretty constrained in the past with Danganronpa by just the fact that Danganronpa is set in a high school, or I guess on a tropical island as far as the second one goes. But their aesthetic sensibilities were a little bit constrained because of that. They were able to do a lot with the UI and the presentation, but the actual graphics, the actual like just visuals had to be at least somewhat, you know, oh, this is a high school. Whereas in this game, they just went fucking insane. They went goddamn insane. This city, fucking Kanai Ward, looks goddamn incredible. It's such a cool series of designs, and you can tell that so much thought went into it as well. So like I watched a couple of like live streams that they did pre-Raincode release where they talked about a lot of their thoughts making the game, and one of the big things they brought up was the fact that they realized if it was raining constantly in Kanai Ward, there wouldn't be any plant life because it'd all rot. So they basically thought, oh, well, what if we put them under glass? And then they can, you know, still have the plants in Ginma District. And it was clearly a lot of thought went into it. The other thing I really like, and that someone in my chat on the live stream pointed out, is that Yuma's shoes, they glow. They've got the underglow on the bottoms of them, and it just looks really cool. And it's just a really cool detail. And they're so detail oriented in this game. You know, like it's a pretty small world map, obviously, but it's so good at doing what a small world map should do, which is make you believe that there's more outside of what you are currently allowed to explore. Make you feel like the city is bigger than what you get to see. And I think it does a great job at that. Absolutely, 100%. As far as the music goes, I mean, fuck, man. You know, it's goddamn Masafumi Takada. Like, what do you want from me? It's good. It's really fucking good. Masafumi Takada is great because he's really able to tailor his style to whatever particular project he's working on while still really making it, you know, his own style. So like in the first Danganronpa, there's this kind of little rock influence. There's a little bit of noir influence. It's kind of this weird mix of like that kind of thing. The second game has this very tropical vibe. And the third game has this very kind of mix of like jazz and hip hop kind of vibe. And then Raincode goes all out on kind of just the jazz element and just fully commits to like that weird noir jazz thing, and it really fits his style well, and it really fits the world well, and it's just fantastic. As soon as the OST comes out, I'm absolutely gonna buy it. Special shout out goes to Shinigami's theme because I think it's just great. It's just fucking great. Visual presentation, fantastic. No complaints. 10 out of 10. Like, holy shit. Every once in a while you get a couple frame rate dips, but they're really, really subtle, and it just seems like more of a thing with Unreal Engine than with the game itself, because Shin Megami Tensei 5 had a lot of these same kind of like minor frame rate dips that weren't like huge and weren't really impacting gameplay a lot, but sometimes made it a little bit hard to move your character around effectively. But it's only in a couple areas and very subtly. Usually you don't really notice it in important sections. So that being said, let's move on to the gameplay. How is the gameplay in Raincode? Mostly, it's kind of just a natural evolution of Danganronpa's gameplay. It's got a lot of the same elements that did. Each chapter kind of starts out with a story section where you get introduced to a couple of elements that are going to be important that chapter. You maybe meet a character or two. You get more familiar with characters you might already know but haven't spent a lot of time with yet, especially if they're going to be important and relevant in the chapter. And then you go off and you have an investigation section. And what's different from Danganronpa to Raincode is that Danganronpa had one big, long investigation with a lot of tiny little details in a small space. And Raincode has kind of a series of smaller investigations over a much bigger area. At least that's how the first two chapters have kind of gone. And I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's mostly just, going around the environments, clicking on things, noticing things. It's very point and click. I mean, as you're going to realize when I'm talking about this gameplay section, I don't really care about challenge. I'm here to solve a mystery. As long as I'm being intellectually stimulated and narratively stimulated, I don't really care about the challenge of the gameplay. I appreciate its purpose, and I appreciate that it's there to break up some of the other sections, but as long as there's something there and it's entertaining me, I don't really care about it all that much. So take all this with a very large grain of salt. But the investigation sections from Danganronpa weren't really broke. You don't really need to fix them. The one thing I wish about Rain Code is that Danganronpa tended to, after you explored the initial crime scene area, they usually let you kind of just they usually said, okay, here are the other important areas you need to check out. Have fun. And Rain Code sometimes lets you do that. So, with the second chapter's investigation, without spoiling too much or saying too much in specifics about it, there are a couple of smaller sections where you're plopped in a general area and you get to look around the various sub-areas within it to your heart's content. But then you later get to explore a much bigger area, but instead of actually getting to explore it, you're just led around to the important locations, literally led around to the important locations. And I just wish that once you got plopped into that bigger area, you could just kind of walk around more and just kind of find those important areas on your own, or even do a Danganronpa thing where you say, okay, I should probably check out this area, and this area, and then just let you go. Which they don't do, unfortunately. But that's the one thing I could say. I wish that you weren't on rails quite as much, but it's not really like a make or break thing for me. As far as the actual gameplay stuff, the Mystery Labyrinth goes. The Mystery Labyrinths, I forgot to talk about this in the visuals. The Mystery Labyrinths are fucking great. I really, really love the Persona influence. I love how it influences the enemies you fight. I love how all the areas in each Mystery Labyrinth are very different. I love how they're all kind of their own unique entity. The one thing I wish is that the outsides were different to reflect the insides. I understand that might have been kind of a budgetary thing. It's not that big of a concern. It would be cool. It'd be cool for the next game. Inevitably, when they do a next game, it would be cool to have unique outsides to the Mystery Labyrinths, to just pull it all together narratively and just to kind of be able to match those cool insides a little bit more. I mean, again, most of the mini games in the Mystery Labyrinth are just improved or modified versions of old Danganronpa games. The death match rebuttal or whatever it is, I'm sorry, I can never remember any of the names. The death cage match thing is basically just the main Danganronpa bullet time game. And I mean, I like the modifications they've made to it. I like how instead of a gun, it's a sword. So instead of aiming, you're dodging and slashing your sword. It's really cool. I still don't have the timing 100% down, I'm going to be honest. The one thing is that it's, in Danganronpa, you could just kind of skip through it to get to the section you needed if you knew what you needed, but in this you still have to dodge them even if you fast forward. So it's kind of, and I guess you can use your buddy's invincibility, but that kind of takes the point out of the game to use the invincibility. I don't know. But overall, easy, great game, fun game. My favorites are the sections that are basically the glorified logic dives, where you're in the minecart, or you're running from a thing, or you're jumping from stuff. You're basically in an action scene, and you have to pick certain logical paths as you're moving. I think the visuals for them all are really fun, especially the minecart one just gets my heart racing for whatever reason. They're just really satisfying and fun, and I like them a lot. The Shinigami barrel is basically Hangman's Gambit. It's fine. It's better than Hangman's Gambit, which kind of sucked balls, especially in the second game. The first one's just boring. The third one's alright. The second one just sucks. The Shinigami barrel one, it's alright. It's alright. It's fine. Whatever. It's all good. They really love to do a word find one, which is fine. And then you get mixed in various logic puzzles, various questions. I really like how it's much more complicated, it's much more action focused than the class trials. And that's not to say I didn't like the class trials, because I love the class trials in Danganronpa. They're the best parts of the game. But I also really like how they try to do something different. They try to do something more action-packed and intense. I like the final Shinigami God Stomp sections. They're just, again, the visuals of this game really pull a lot of weight in making the gameplay feel satisfying. And I applaud them for that because I did not expect that, honestly. But, you know, the gameplay for me, it's fine. It's good. It's serviceable. It does what it's supposed to do. I have fun running through it. So, yeah. I mean, some people complain about the quick time events or whatever. I think they're relatively minor and they don't really matter all that much. So, they're fine. I don't care. Whatever. But yeah, gameplay is fine. It's serviceable. It's good. Even sometimes it's even great, depending on the section. It's Danganronpa, you know. As long as you're mildly entertained by the mini games, I think that's what its purpose is. Moving on to the voice acting. I guess I'll do the sound design in here too because I forgot to mention it earlier. So we'll talk about the sound design first. Not a whole ton of notes. I mean, the sounds are good. The sounds are satisfying. I noticed in particular, I don't know why I was thinking about this in this part of the game, but in the second chapter, in the big theater scene, I just, for some reason, just ended up hyper-focusing on the Foley work. And I was just like, oh, that's some really good Foley work. You know, that sounds really good. Specifically, another thing that somebody on my live stream commented was that the sound effects for when you find a clue and you click on a clue are very, very satisfying, and it's true. They are very, very satisfying. Again, sound design's great. Sound design does what it's supposed to do, which is you usually don't notice it, but it's good. It's really good. As far as the voice acting goes, my general rule for Japanese media is that if it's an anime, I watch it subbed. If it's a video game, I try to play the English dub, and I only switch to Japanese if for some reason I don't like the English dub. Danganronpa's English dubs are always fantastic. I'm assuming, one can probably assume that a lot of the same staff worked on the dub for this one, considering that there's a lot of voice actors that carried over, like Lucian Dodge, like Kaji Tang. A couple of other people who were in Danganronpa make reappearances in this game, as well as a bunch of new up-and-coming voice actors, which is really cool. And they all do a really fucking fantastic job. Even a lot of times when Shota boys are voiced by men in English, it reads weird to me, but both Lucian Dodge and I do not remember Desihiga's voice actor's name, but they both do a really, really good job at their characters. I totally believe them as their characters. It's really, really good work. Shinigami, I came into the game thinking that either she was really going to grow on me or she was going to get really annoying really quickly. Luckily, it was the former. Shinigami grew on me. I think they put her more energetic moments on display for a lot of the ads, and because she does have a lot of quieter moments. Her voice actress is very, very good at making sure that the loud, energetic side of Shinigami doesn't overtake the character. Some people have complaints about Shinigami. I'm not one of them. I think she's funny. I think she's cute. I think she's fun. I want to cosplay her someday. She's a cool character, and I like her a lot. If Dragon and I ever play through Raincoat without the voice acting, I will have a lot of fun voicing her. But yeah, voice actors do a fantastic job. The one thing I can say, there's actually two gripes I have about the voice acting. One of which is so minor that it's fucking inconsequential, and who the hell really cares, but I'm just going to point it out anyway. There are a couple of lines here there, specifically with Yuma, the main character. He has a huh line and a what line, and either for some reason they got recorded really quietly, so they loudened them and overcompensated, or maybe he had to record them at a different time or in a different location, but they're quite a bit louder than the rest of his lines for whatever reason. So like a character will be going, mum, 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 huh? And it's really, really weird. The problem is that line, that little grunt is used quite frequently in his unvoiced lines. So like every like 20 minutes you just get a random, huh? And it's like oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's weird. And there's one or two lines I noticed here or there that were significantly quieter than the others as well. There's a little bit funky mixing here or there, but not enough that it's like a constant problem by any means. It's just with one or two lines. And then there's the fact that the cutscenes, they did not match the lip flaps. They didn't even really make an attempt to match the lip flaps in the cutscenes, because obviously the animations are matched to the Japanese. And I know a lot of times in video games, either if the video game budget is big enough, they will rematch the lip flaps for the English cast, or they will do the anime thing where they just make sure that they're at least somewhat in time. This game made no attempt at all. The cutscene lines often, their mouths will be flapping about like 2 to 3 seconds after the voice actor finishes their line, which is kind of weird. I would have put a little more effort into that, but who knows what the situation was. Again, it's not a make or break thing by any means at all. So that is what it is. The final section, which will be the longest, of course, by a long shot, is the narrative, is the writing. I get the distinct feeling with Raincode that Kodaka was very excited to be able to experiment with more broad forms of mystery, because in Danganronpa, it was very limited to, it has to be a crime that a high school student could reasonably commit. It has to be, the location has to be somewhere that could reasonably be in a high school, a special high school, but could reasonably be in a high school. It has to take place over a certain small amount of time, and it has to take place in a location that other students could have access to at any point. And it also has to be, a character murdered that we already know and a character who killed them that we already know, which is, pretty limiting. I think a lot of the best decisions of Danganronpa came from that limiting factor, but I'm sure it's a huge relief to be able to just stretch your muscles and tell mystery stories on fucking trains and about serial killers and about, girls' high schools. It's fun. It's fun, and I can tell that he had a really good time. The one problem is that the cases, because of that new freedom, end up being a little bit hit or miss. You can clearly tell that they were experimenting with this game, because some of the cases are great. Second chapter, phenomenal. Prologue, phenomenal. When Kodaka leans on his strength, which is the strength of his characters and the psychology of his characters, they work just as well as Danganronpa cases. They're great. I have a problem with chapter 1, specifically because it's a much more clinical investigation. Because they tried to do so many crime scenes, it isn't really super it's like 4 mini crime scenes, so none of the mystery element is super complicated, and then there isn't really enough time dedicated to the suspects, because you meet them once for about 2 minutes, and then you have to figure out which one of them did it, which means that basically the true killer's motive is hand waved by, he thought he was protecting the city, it's fine. And it kind of just deflates the balloon of the case, because it just feels like, oh, well, there wasn't really like a big climactic moment to this. And they tried to make a climactic moment by putting that twist in, but like, that didn't really land well either. I don't know. But the second chapter is way better. The second chapter had a more limited cast that we explored more thoroughly, and that worked really fucking well. So the cases in Raincode, the narrative in Raincode of the actual individual murder cases is a little bit more hit or miss than Danganronpa was. That's kind of the cases are kind of the reason that I like those games. But you know what? In terms of the novel, as far as that kind of goes, as long as he's having a good time and the novelty of it is interesting, I'm very excited to see the breadth and depth of the cases. It makes me happy, even if some of them are not quite as strong as Danganronpa was. As far as the characters go, I mean, I think this is one of the strongest main cast of characters that they've ever written. It's a lot smaller than the other Danganronpa cast works. Obviously, the Danganronpa cast had like 16 characters that were important, but the cast that we've got is absolutely fantastic. I love these characters so much. I'm not even halfway through the game, and I love all of these characters so much. Yuma is, I mean, then again, some people find Danganronpa protagonists can be annoying sometimes. I know Dragon has. I've never really had a problem with any of them, but like, for the most part, both Makoto and Hajime were kind of like, yeah, they're okay. Until the end of Danganronpa 2, and Hajime obviously really grew on me at the end of Danganronpa 2. But for the most part, I was like, yeah, they're okay. I really love Yuma. I think he's cute and sweet, and I really like his dynamic with Shinigami a lot. Shinigami herself is, basically, she's just female Monokuma and Junko combined into one character, and she's not evil. And I really like her. I think she's cute and fun, and I think she's hiding something from us. I really also like all of the detectives. I mean, I have a preference for my favorite detective. Yako Furio is the sad, wet, pathetic man of my dreams, and I'm in love with him. But obviously Vivi is, and Dasuhiko is just the cutest little fucking pervy ass little shota boy you've ever met. I love him. I love him. He's gonna be the controversial character that the fan base hates, but you know what? I like him. I think he's funny. Halara is just, oh god, they're such a badass. I love them. They're so cool. I want to be Halara. They're so cool. And I don't know much about Fubuki yet. Haven't done chapter 3, but she seems funny. But I feel very connected to all of these characters in a very strong way. And it's cool that they each get a lot of extra time to dedicate to each individual character, which is more than a lot of characters in Danganronpa ever got, which is cool. Which is really cool. I mean, obviously, again, it's fucking Kodaka. If you like his character writing, you fucking adore his character writing. If you don't, you don't. And then you're just not playing any of his games because the characters are the games. But I really like Kodaka's writing style, and I really like Kodaka's characters. So I'm on board. I think these are some of the best characters he's ever made. I love them. As far as the overall plot goes, obviously, like most Danganronpa games or most Danganronpa, adjacent games, the main plot doesn't really happen until the very, very end, so I haven't really gotten there yet. But I do like how, in comparison to the Danganronpa games, which were like, yeah, there's a plot here, we'll figure it out eventually. Like, there's actually some intrigue to this plot. Like, there's a couple of, like, really solid questions that the game opens for you. Like, who is Yuma really? Like, why did he make a deal with Shinigami? What caused him to do that? And also there's the question is he really Yuma Cocohead? I have the distinct impression that he's not, specifically because it'd be so easy for someone with amnesia to think they're Yuma Cocohead when they find a note in their pocket saying they're Yuma Cocohead. Specifically, none of the other characters have ever seen a picture of Yuma Cocohead. Also, that name's the dumbest fucking name ever. I'm sorry. Specifically, I love the little detail of, oh, apparently Yuma's a really good cook. Yuma, cook me something. I suck at cooking. Oh, well, it must just be because of my amnesia loss. Not because I'm not actually Yuma Cocohead or anything like that. Don't worry about it. I have a theory that either somehow somebody else's soul is in the body of Yuma Cocohead, or he's just an imposter entirely. I have to figure it out, but I have theories about that, and I think that's probably there's something fucky going on there. And I'm really excited to see what was his original motivation for making a deal with Shinigami, and what she knows that she's hiding, probably partially on purpose, probably partially just because she's a fucking bimbo, Anyway, the main plot is intriguing. It's much more intriguing than Danganronpa ever was. In Danganronpa, I was mostly just specifically in it for the cases. The one time the main plot got interesting was at the very, very end of the second game. I believe it got interesting then. But I've always just been in Danganronpa specifically for the individual cases and the characters being stupid and goofy. I think they're funny. But I actually am intrigued about the main plot in this game. I like the world that it's set up, and I like the characters that it's set up, and everything is just really good. Raincoat's just a really good game. Just play Raincoat, please. I know it's a Switch exclusive, but just go buy it. It's expensive. It's the price of a full game, but God, it's good. God, it's really good. Just go play it. You'll have a good time. I promise you'll have a good time. Just go play it. Anyway, that was my spiel. Have a great day. I'll see you all probably in a week or two with another video, because I have another video that should be out in a week or two. Woo! Okay, bye.